Okay. Time is now 11:28 and don't appear to be anybody in here. If you can hear me, just go ahead and type your name in the chat and say hello. And also confirm whether you can actually hear me. I'm not sure if my audio sounds good or not. Okay, so it looks like we got about 7 people watching right now, but I don't see anyone as a participant in the chat, which probably means that people are having some difficulty signing in with their Google account or their YouTube account. If you look in the top right-hand corner of YouTube, actually, here, let me just show you. It's 11:30 now, so I'm going to begin very shortly, but I'd just like to know that if there's anyone out there actually watching, because I don't want to spend an hour-long webinar only to find out that it's just a bunch of bots that are watching us. So I'd like to see someone else in the chat comment, but if you, for example, are watching the webinar right here, you'll see in the top right-hand corner whether or not you're signed into a YouTube account. So if you click here, you can see, for example, I'm signed in with a Gmail account. You should be able to sign in with your TDSB account, or you should be able to sign in with even a personal Gmail, but just something so that when you come into the channel, you can actually participate in the chat here. Okay, so I see Suzanne's here. Hi, Suzanne. Thanks for joining us. But it seems to be just Suzanne. However, I believe it shows that there's some people watching here. Yeah, 4 watching now. Okay, so we went from 7 to 4. Oh, here we go. We got David. Hello, David. So if you guys can just introduce yourself in the chat, it'll help us with the attendance. So we got 6 watching now. I'll pause the video. It's going really inception-y. 7. Perfect. Okay. I imagine more will kind of trickle in as we go along, but I just want to be cognizant of your time. I'm going to go ahead and begin, even if it's just shows just the 2 you are in the chat, but there are about 7 people watching right now. So I'll just go ahead and kick this off. So once again, thank you and good morning, and thank you for attending the AirWatch webinar. We are going to cover today, obviously, AirWatch and particularly how to manage iPads with AirWatch. Just a quick curiosity, can you guys hear me okay, Suzanne and Daniel? Can you just let me know in the chat if you can hear me? Oh, Felipe, I just noticed you said hello, Suzanne and David, because I said David, because I can't read, but that's Daniel. Yeah, gotta correct that. If you can't hear me or if I'm too quiet, just let me know in the chat, and then I'll go back and adjust my audio settings. Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay, so just before we begin, I just want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded, and it will be available at the end of the webinar using the same YouTube link that you're actually watching it with right now. So the link that you're looking at, if you look in the top address bar, that URL that you used to click here, that is indeed the link that you can use to go back and watch it several times, or you can go on our YouTube channel that you're watching it on right now and see all the previous webinars and anything of that sort. So There's also a 10-second delay between the time that I'm actually saying something out of my mouth and by the time you guys actually hear it. So if you say something or ask something in the chat, Vince, it looks like you have logged in correctly. I can see you're typing in there. It looks good. Thank you very much, and welcome, Vince. Thank you for joining us. But just as I was saying, there's a 10-second delay between the time that I say something and the time that you hear it. So for example, when I just said, hi, Vince, I may have said it, but you don't hear it till 10 seconds later. So if you're asking a question in the chat and it seems like I'm ignoring you or maybe I didn't quite see it, it's probably that 10-second delay. So fear not, I am paying attention to the chat. Also, yeah, as I said, feel free to ask questions in the chat. So if you want me to take a deeper dive into something, I can go ahead and do that, or maybe explain something in greater detail. And if, for example, you do have a question that I feel may require a little bit more detailed response, just to be cognizant of everyone's time, I will ask you to park that question till the end, because as soon as I'm done the actual main content of the webinar, I can actually spend the extra time and go over that particular thing that you want to know, so I can put more detail into it. And even if you can't stick around for that more detailed response, you could actually just, again, using the same YouTube link that you have here, go back and watch it and see my explanation of what it is that you asked. So that might be more helpful for you guys. Also, before we begin, in the the bottom right-hand corner of the YouTube video player, you'll see that there's a gear icon. If you click that gear icon, it'll show you you can change the quality, so you may want to adjust it to something a little bit more high def, 720p or 1080p, just so that the content on the screen is a little bit more clear to read, especially when I am toggling between the iPads. So when I pull up an iPad on the screen here, sometimes you may not be able to read the text on the screen, so you may have to actually go ahead and adjust the quality settings to make it a little bit easier to read. Also, next to the volume control is a live button. That live button, if you don't see a red dot next to it, it means that the kind of video has fallen slightly out of synchronization, which means you're not looking at the quote-unquote live as possible. If you actually just click where it says live, that button should go red, and it should show you the, I guess, the latest version possible, so you would be as live as possible. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So diving right in, AirWatch. What is it? So AirWatch, you may already be familiar with it if you've gotten this far, but basically it's the fancy term is mobile device management system or enterprise mobility management system, which are basically just big fancy words for they manage your mobile devices. So similarly, how we can like centrally control all our TDSB computers, we can centrally control all our iPads. Daniel, if you're seeing the max quality for your videos 480p, that's probably because of your network connection at the school. So YouTube sometimes will not let you go beyond 480p. As far as I know, I have the settings set up correctly that you can bring it to 1080p. Oh. 480p. I guess that's weird. I would leave it at auto, but 480p seems to actually be 1020p. It could be S, yeah. So basically, our network connection speed actually also dictates what the speed you can set it to. So if you're stuck at 480p, it actually might be my fault. But hopefully it's still clear. Like, I'm just maximizing the video and I can kind of read everything. So yeah, you know what? Just leave it as auto. I should take that slide out in general. Leave it as auto because that'll give you the highest quality possible for the bandwidth speed that you have. But diving right back in, as I was saying, AirWatch, again, of course, is a mobile device management system. We can centrally control all our iPads from AirWatch. So all of our iPads, all 30,000 across the Toronto District School Board, all centrally go and talk to this AirWatch system where we can push out configurations and whatnot. And that will bring us into the benefits. So the benefits of having this AirWatch system or the mobile device management system is that we can kind of do things from one central point. It allows us to better manage these iPads. First one being here is that they have an automatic TDSB wireless network access to connect to WLAN TDSB 01. So prior to AirWatch, what had to happen is you would have to join TDSB-Wi-Fi, which, as you know, when you try to join that wireless network, it will ask you for your employee number and password. No worries, Vince, if you got to change computers, by all means. But yeah, so unlike before, you don't have to join TDSB-Wi-Fi with your employee number and password, which is good if you if you guys don't want to enter in your employee number and password, or let's say your employee number and password expires, or now let's say a student has using an iPad and it's got your employee number and password to connect to the Wi-Fi, it may seem like you're accountable for everything going forward, which shouldn't be the case. So with the AirWatch iPads, they join WLAN TDSP 01 with no username and password, so they should just automatically connect and they should stay connected. There should be no expiry or anything of that sort. There's also easy app installation for multiple iPads. So before you would have to, pick up an iPad, go to the App Store, search the app that you want, sign in with your Apple ID, download the app, and you would have to do that for every single iPad. Now that's fine with one or two, but once you got about 30, 40, 50, it becomes a bit of a nightmare. With AirWatch, what we do is we configure the apps that we want to deploy to our iPads, and then it pushes out from AirWatch. The AirWatch will tell these iPads, these are the apps you're going to install, and it should be automated and seamless from there. There's also a consistent experience between the different iPads. So all the iPads now should have a blue background with a with the TDSB logo behind it. I just realized now that the iPad that I have here is not enrolled, so I'm just gonna set it up so that I can show you. You know what? That's fine. I'll let it. Yeah, here you got it. Thanks, man. I'll show you the iPad in just a second so you can see how it looks between like a traditional iPad and and one that's an AirWatch. Can you do this one as well too, actually? Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I did the first two parts, the language and stuff like that. But that. Oh, I typed in 999. Yeah, I typed that in already. That one should not enroll. That's the non-MDM one, so I'll be able to show them side by side. Yeah, so aside from that, again, there's going to be a consistent look and feel. I guess I can actually swipe over now and show you what the iPad looks like. Boom. So on the middle here, you can see they all have the same blue background, and when you go to the lock screen, they have the TDSB logo there. So all the AirWatch iPads should look like this. Whereas the old iPads, there was no sort of consistent look and feel. They're kind of controlled by the device itself. Also, there are some built-in security policies. So by default in AirWatch, there's basically two modes of operation for the iPad. There's like student mode and teacher mode. When the iPad is in, we'll say, student mode, there's certain things that cannot be done, such as putting a passcode on the device, changing the wallpaper, going to the App Store and downloading apps. The idea here is to prevent students from downloading any apps that they want all willy-nilly from the App Store and not being vetted by the teacher, or perhaps tampering with the iPads, which I'll show you in just a bit of how that whole thing works. And the last benefit, of course, would be it gives you kind of a school-level inventory of all your iPads. So when you're looking at AirWatch, you can actually see a list of all your iPads, and it kind of acts as like an inventory. You can see the serial number, the version number, what kind of hardware it is, and again, I'll show you that later as we actually log into the AirWatch console. And before we begin, who can log into AirWatch? And when I say who can log into AirWatch, what I'm referring to is the actual web console itself. By default, principals should be able to log into the AirWatch web console, and AirWatch administrators. AirWatch administrators are you guys. We actually did go through the list prior to you guys joining this webinar, and as far as I know, everyone here should be able to log in to the AirWatch console. We've made sure that, so you guys fall under the category of AirWatch administrators. But hypothetically, let's say if your principal wants to add another AirWatch administrator in the future, they can do so through LAS, and we have provided instructions to your principal on how to do that. So your principal can go into LAS and add new AirWatch administrators. Once a new AirWatch administrator is added, 12 to 24 hours later, that new AirWatch administrator will be able to log into the web console. But as of right now, you guys should all be able to log into the web console. So this demo will cover the iPad's new look and feel. I kind of briefly showed you that already. I'm going to show you how to navigate the AirWatch console, taking a look at how the whole thing works, as well as how to organize your iPads in what the product calls smart groups, and then from there, adding and removing apps and web clips from the iPad. So now I'm going to go ahead and actually show you the iPad, what I was referring to earlier. The agent and catalog particularly are the two primary focuses of an AirWatch iPad. These are the two apps or web clip. Well, one's an app, one's a web clip, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. But the idea is that every AirWatch iPad will have both the agent and the catalog, and that tells you that the iPad is an AirWatch. So let me flip over to one of my AirWatch iPads. I have one that's an AirWatch and one that is not. So on the left here is my AirWatch iPad. So as you can see right away, when I press the home button, it's got the blue TDSB 20th anniversary logo, and when I press the home button to unlock it, it's got the same blue background, and that AirWatch agent and catalog are right there, as I stated earlier. So these are the two primary indicators that that iPad is an AirWatch, next to, of course, the fact that the background is blue and the lock screen has the TDSB logo on it. One of the things you'll notice with the AirWatch iPads is that some of the settings are restricted, as well as the App Store is gone. I'm just going to do one thing here before I keep talking, because sometimes the automatically locks and I don't like that. I'm going to change it to never, and I'm going to jack up the brightness a bit. Maybe that's too much. Okay. So this iPad right now, we'll call it in student mode. So there are some built-in security policies with AirWatch. Right now, we'll say that this iPad is in student mode in that there is no App Store. So the App Store would traditionally be right about here. And that the idea here is that I can't go to the App Store and start searching up different apps and downloading it. Also, if I go into settings, there are some things that I cannot do, such as I cannot change the wallpaper. Usually there's a setting here on the left-hand side that says wallpaper. There's no passcode here, so I can't put a passcode on this device. And you know, let's say hypothetically if I was a student and I did put a passcode on the device and I didn't tell you, the teacher, the passcode that I put on the device, well, you're locked out of that iPad, and there really is no way around that other than to wipe the iPad. So in this mode, it's pretty restricted in what can be done on the iPad. You can't sign into an Apple ID. You can't sign into an iCloud account. And this is all by design. We don't want this to be tampered with by students. However, if at any moment you need to do something that AirWatch is preventing you from doing, we can always switch into what I will call teacher mode. And how we do that is we check into the agent app. So that app, the blue shield there, the agent app, not only is that a good indicator that the iPad is an AirWatch, but it also allows you to check into the agent, and that will basically unlock all the settings on the iPad. So if I launch the agent app here, what will happen is we'll be greeted with a login screen. Sometimes it takes a while. So what's going to happen, it's going to prompt me for a login screen here, and it's going to say username and password. Now, any TDSB staff member can enter in their employee number and password here, and it will unlock all the restrictions on the iPad. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my employee number and password off screen here just so that it doesn't get recorded and broadcasted to the greater World Wide Web. And of course, I got a really long password just for silent airtime. Okay, so I've got in my employee number and password. Okay, and basically, as I said, any TDSB staff member can put in their employee number and password here. The caretaker, you know, a social worker. It doesn't matter. Anyone who has an employee number and password could enter in their employee number and password here and log in, and it will unlock the iPad to all the restrictions on the iPad. Now, a student can't put their student number and password here and do that, but only employees can put in their employee number and password, and it will unlock it. So once I tap login here, what's going to happen is it will bring me to kind of a useless screen. It just kind of shows you some details of the iPad, but the best thing about it is that it indicates that the iPad is signed in and that all the restrictions will be removed. So I got my success message, so I typed in my employee number and password correctly, and once I'm greeted with that status page, I'll know that I'm signed in. Occasionally, you'll see some prompts that come up on the iPads. Read them. Generally speaking, they're just informative. In this case, it says agent would like to send you notifications. That's totally fine. I'll allow that. So that was just an app permission that it was asking me for. But I'm signed into the AirWatch agent now. There's really nothing much to see here. Other than the logout button, which I'll come back to in just a second. But once I see this screen, I know that I'm logged into the agent app. And what I can do is when I press the home button, you'll see that disregard these two things because these are apps that are pushing from AirWatch, which I'll show you how that's done later. But one of the things I want to show you is that after I sign into the agent app, what's happening is you'll see now my app store is available. So that app store wasn't there before. And now it is. And the reason is because I signed into that AirWatch agent app and now unlocked all the restrictions on the device. Also now when I go into settings, I have more options of what to work with here. Now I can change the wallpaper. And if you don't believe me, you can go back on the video and you'll see that half of these settings here on the left-hand side weren't there when I signed in, such as the wallpaper. And now there's the passcode. I can put a passcode on the device. I can sign in with my iCloud account. Not that I would recommend that. You can sign in with an Apple ID. You can add an email profile. So if I wanted to add a mail account onto it, I could do that. Basically, this iPad has no restrictions on it at all. You have full control of it. It's no different than if you went to the Apple Store and purchased your own iPad and had all the standard iPad features, no restrictions on it at all. And that's the checking in feature. So once you check into the agent app, everything becomes totally unlocked. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to hand this over to a student and have them have all this full privilege to the iPad. So what you want to do before you give it back is sign out of the agent app. So basically, we go in reverse. We tap that agent app and we go to log out. If you forget to log out, I believe it times out after a certain amount of minutes or hours, so you don't have to fret too much. 8 hours? Okay, so that's quite long, but yeah, if you forget to sign out of the agent app, it will automatically sign you out after 8 hours, such that that app store will disappear and all the settings will disappear. But I'm going to force sign out here, so I'm going to go to the agent app, and we're going to be back on that screen that we were at before. Again, not a lot of information here, but I can actually log out. So there's a log out button right there. There it is, right? So if I tap log out, it's going to ask me if I'm sure. I'm going to hit yeah. And once I'm back at the login screen, I'll know that everything's done. What's this? Allow app and book assignment. Sure. Okay. So I'm signed out of the App Store now. And now, of course, right away, the agent app. And right away you can see that the App Store is gone again. If I go into settings, everything's gone again. So there's no more wallpaper, no more passcode, nothing like that. So that is the idea of the checking in and checking out of the iPad. A very important thing to know if ever AirWatch is frustrating you. And just to show you side by side of what an iPad looks like prior to AirWatch, here's an iPad on the left-hand side about prior to AirWatch. So as you can see, it's got the default background that you would get from from Apple. There's no restrictions. You got the App Store. There's no agent app and catalog app. This iPad is basically not going to go into AirWatch by design, and that's for the sake of example here. But on the left-hand side, you can see standard consumer-grade iPad. On the right-hand side, an iPad that is controlled by AirWatch. So I hope that's abundantly clear. So that was the agent app, and I mentioned the catalog app, but I didn't go into too much detail about it. But if you do see the agent app and the catalog app, you know that the iPad is an AirWatch. But the catalog app I'll go into a little bit more detail later. So now I'm going to talk about actually logging into the web console, and the web console is where you actually control your iPad. So that's where I make all my settings and configurations for my iPad. So the reason that this iPad here on the right-hand side has Scratch, Explain Everything, Google Drive, that's all done through the web console. I make those configurations from the web console. So we're going to actually dive into how to actually log in there. So with logging into the AirWatch web console, you can do that from anywhere on the web, not just within the TDSB. So if you have an internet connection and you're connected to the web, you can log into AirWatch and make your changes and modifications from there. As far as I know, there's no browser limitations. It should work on most modern browsers, Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox. It shouldn't matter. One thing I will say is that you cannot actually log into the AirWatch web console from the device itself. So if I try to go into AirWatch on, I know what you're about to say. You're saying because of the desktop site thing. Let's say I want to manage AirWatch from the device itself, and I go to the AirWatch link here. It's going to throw up a weird page, but there is a workaround for that. But that's sort of outside the scope of this. The idea is that I imagine you would be controlling or managing your iPads, controlling or managing AirWatch from a desktop computer or a Mac computer or a computer with a mouse and keyboard, essentially, not the tablet. But you could. One important thing is the username format. I will explain that in a little bit detail later. And there's a 4-digit PIN code it asks you to create when you first log in. And here's the link for the actual how to get to the web console. Now that is a mouthful, obviously. cn239.awmdm.com. We don't expect you to remember that. There's actually a shortcut on the desktop. I'm gonna exit out of this, and I'm gonna not show the desktop because that will minimize the chat. So here's the standard TDSB desktop. Hey, where's the background? It's probably on the other monitor. Oh, weird. Okay. So your background, you should have that TDSB 20th anniversary logo here. Mine doesn't seem to have it, but I digress. It doesn't matter. In this case, your your AirWatch link should be located in the school shared folder on the desktop. Mine here says LAS Test School. That's just for our test environment. Yours will actually say your school name. So whatever school you're a member of, it'll say your school name, and it'll look like a folder icon. When you click that, this is where you would see, oh, it's on the other screen. Let me pull that down. There we go. When you open it up, what you should see is something similar to this. So this is where you would access, Markbook and LAS and all that. But there is a link for AirWatch here. So you guys should be able to see an AirWatch link in your school shared folder as well. And if you double click that, it will open up with your default browser, and everything keeps opening up on the screen above. Let me pull that down. And this is what we'll get here. So let me just delete all this so we can be at the same page. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna delete the password here. Remove. There we go. And I'm gonna refresh the page. So we're all on the same page here. Doesn't look like the link is loading. Oh, it signed me in automatically. Awesome. Sorry. Ignore everything you're seeing. There we go. Okay. This is what you should be seeing. Okay. So let me do that again. So just for clarity's sake, again, school shared folder, AirWatch link, double click, opens to AirWatch. Of course, it opens up on the other monitor over here. And this is what you should see. Okay. So, oops. So you got your username and password. So this is the login screen for the AirWatch console. Now, the username is going to be your employee number, but it's going to be your employee number being prefixed with TDSB /. So let me zoom in here just so that you guys can totally see what I'm referring to. So in the username field, it's not just going to be my employee number. Oops. Numlock. There we go. So that's my employee number, right? It's not just going to be my employee number that I type in the username field. I actually need to put TDSB /. Oh my god, my keyboard language changed. Hold on. Oh geez. I should have brought a different keyboard. Okay, so if you guys ever notice on Windows computers, when you go to type something and then the keyboard looks like an E, or you get a bunch of French characters, that usually happens when you press Control and Shift at the same time. So that's what happened for me. So there we go. All right. So again, my employee number 163809. But before I type in just my employee number and password, I actually need to prefix my employee number with TDSB /. So if I don't put TDSB /, it will not let me log in. Now the TDSB is not case sensitive. You can do TDSB, you can do TDSB. It doesn't matter. As long as you have TDSB / and then your employee number, you should be able to log in. And of course, when I say /, I don't mean the /, which is next to the shift key. I mean the /, which is above the enter key. So that's a /, that's a /, /. Okay. So it's TDSB / and then your employee number. I'm only stressing that because we do get a lot of calls saying I can't log in, and that's usually what the case is. They just put TDSB / or TDSB or they didn't type TDSB at all. So that's just want to make that abundantly clear. And then of course your current network password. So this is the same password you would use to log into computers. And I'm going to zoom back out here. Okay. So I got TDSB / my employee number and my current network password, and then I click login, and I should be able to log into the AirWatch console. No, don't save my password. And you probably won't see the dashboard here if you haven't logged in before. If this is the first time you're logging in, what you'll probably see is to accept the terms of agreement. So you'll see this screen here. Just click yes to that. And then the next screen will then ask you to create a 4-digit PIN code. I've already done both the terms of agreement and created a 4-digit PIN code, so that's why mine jumps right into the dashboard. But for you guys, you may see these two screens. So accept the terms of agreement and create a 4-digit PIN code. The 4-digit PIN code is used when you want to wipe a device. So right now we're not going to be wiping any devices. So when you go to wipe a device in AirWatch, right before you wipe it, it asks you to type in this 4-digit PIN code just to double make sure that you know that's indeed what you want to do. So you can make it 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter. If you ever forget what it is, you can easily reset it. So create your 4-digit PIN code, and then you should be greeted here on the dashboard, which is where you should be when you log in going forward. So once you're looking at the dashboard, what you'll one thing about the dashboard is that it's really just a graphical overview of your environment. In this case, it shows that I have 4 iPads in my environment, and it shows me, how many of them are, Android devices or Apple devices. In this case, they're all Apple devices. Just some basic statistics. I'm not going to spend too much time here. It doesn't really matter. But this is basically just a bunch of graphs, and they're all interactive. So, for example, if I hover my mouse over it, you'll see that they change color. And when I click the graph or whatever object changes color, it'll actually take me to the iPads or devices referring to. So, for example, if I click these iPads, it'll take me to those 4 iPads that it's referring to. Again, you're not going to spend too much time on the dashboard, but it does tell you at least how many iPads you have in total. In this case, it shows I have 4. So, but the more important part is the list view. So I'm going to toggle over to list view. So on the left-hand side, we have 3 primary buttons you're going to see: devices, apps and books, groups and settings. We're starting off here in devices, and then in devices we have the dashboard, and then list view. So in list view, hold on, there's a filter here. I'm going to close that. There we go. I'm going to get rid of this filter. You shouldn't see this filter here. The filter allows you to kind of filter down this list based on conditions that you set. But this is list view. It just kind of gives you a list of all your devices, as the name implies, which will tell you some details such as, the last seen value, the name of the iPad, and the platform, and what version of iOS it's running. The more important thing when you're looking at this list view to note is the last seen value. The last seen value here, this big green square, indicates when the device last communicated with AirWatch. I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen here, so I'm just going to zoom in a bit. So this first iPad, for example, shows that the last seen value is 2 seconds. So what that means is that this iPad reported into AirWatch 2 seconds ago. So that indicates that the iPad is online and connected to AirWatch. So for example, if I make a change to an iPad, I'll know, well, this iPad saw AirWatch 2 seconds ago, so it's probably connected and it's probably going to get it really quickly. But then if you look at it on the flip side, the one at the bottom here shows that the last seen value is 56D, which means 56 days. That iPad hasn't talked to AirWatch in 56 days. That would probably indicate that there's a problem with that iPad and I should go check it out. So if I can identify which iPad that is, I can go pick it up, make sure it's connected, make sure there's nothing wrong with it, or make sure I can even find it to begin with. Maybe it's stolen, who knows, right? But that's the idea of the last seen value column here, is it just tells you the last time that the device connected and was talking to AirWatch. So you probably want something relatively recent, within a day, 3 days, right? If you have an iPad in your hand and the last seen value is showing like 2-3 days, but it's connected to the network, then that could suggest that there's something wrong with the iPad. It also shows you the name of the iPad. I've given this one a name, grade 3 iPad number 9. The other 2 have some default names, so you might see some iPads that are just named iPad. That's the standard name it comes in with. Sometimes the name comes in with a bunch of gobbledygook, like this one, which is the iPad that I have over here on the left-hand side, which I'm not too concerned about because I'm actually going to show you how to rename it. But yeah, you can give your iPads names in AirWatch, and the reason you would want to do that is so that you can better organize them. So for example, if you guys have a naming convention at your school, you will want to rename your iPads so that you can better manage them in AirWatch. So I'm going to show you how to rename your iPads right now, just because it will be very important later. But right now, if I look at one of my iPads here, I can rename it from the console. So this iPad, if I look at the back of it, your school probably has a convention on it. Right now, we labels are here at the client service desk, CSD iPad 11.2, right? So if I'm managing my iPads, I would probably want to rename that iPad such that it matches up with my physical labeling of the iPad, or perhaps the purpose of it. But since we're not doing a webinar for us, we're doing a webinar for you, I'm going to go ahead and pretend that the label on this iPad is grade 1 iPad 2. So from AirWatch, I can rename an iPad. So I'm going to rename this one right here. I'm going to click the pencil icon next to the iPad, and I'm going to call it grade 1 iPad number 2. Okay, so that's the name I've chosen to give it, and again, just for the sake of example, we'll pretend that this label here says grade, or we'll pretend this label here says iPad 2, and I know that it's going to go to the grade 1 classroom. So grade 1 iPad 2, and I'm going to set the friendly name as the device name. You'll want to check that off, and I'll show you why in just a second. Oh, I'm not actually clicking on it. There it is. Okay. And once that's done, I'm going to click Save. It's kind of running off the screen here because I'm zoomed in. Click Save. And now I can see that that name says grade 1 iPad number 2. And what that should do on the iPad side is now I can actually go and look, and that checkbox that I checked off that said set friendly name as device name means that it's going to push that name to this iPad. So if I go to Settings, General, and then About, we can see here that the name is now changed to grade 1 iPad 2. Now that's a little bit cumbersome to rename it from the console. So if I'm looking at it here from the console and I click the pencil and set the name from here, that's all fine and dandy. I can do that, but the problem is how do I know that this iPad, you know, is actually this iPad, or maybe perhaps it's this iPad here, right? So how do I know that this iPad is that iPad? Especially if the name just says iPad, right? I have no way to actually uniquely indicate that that iPad is that one. And that could be a problem when you have, you know, over 20, 30, 40, 50 iPads. And the solution for that is, well, there's two ways you can do it. One is complicated and one is easier. I'll obviously tell you the easier one. From the iPad itself, you can go into Settings. So what I would do is maybe tell everyone who has iPads in circulation in their classroom to name their iPads based on what they're physically labeled. So you can imagine if this one was labeled grade 2 iPad 1, what I would do is tell everyone with their iPads to go to Settings, General, and then up here at the top, About, and then the name. So the name there. So obviously I changed the name from AirWatch to here, but I can actually go the other way around. If I change the name on the iPad to grade 1 iPad 3, what that will do is it'll change the name on AirWatch. So it'll actually switch it over to AirWatch's side. So now this grade 1 iPad is now grade 1 iPad number 3. I'm gonna back out of here, and that name should reflect on AirWatch. So if I change the name there and I go back to AirWatch, sometimes it can take a little bit of time, and there it is. Okay, so you can see that the name changed to grade 1 iPad number 3. So I can do that for each one of my iPads. So that's what I would want to do, is I would want to go into each one of my iPads, go to Settings, General, and then About, and then change the name. And that's a very important step. Again, as far as managing these iPads go, take the time and actually rename your iPads so that they make sense to you. Name them by, you know, use. I mean, it really all depends how you guys manage your iPads at the school. If you guys manage it by grade, then indicate the grade in the name. If you guys manage it by the color of the case, you know, put the color of the case on it. If you got the blue bumper case on it, call them blue iPad number 5, right? Just so that when you go to group them later, or you know, or apply different things, maybe you want all the iPads with the blue bumper to have junior kindergarten apps, and maybe you want the ones with the green bumper to have grade 5 apps on them. You can at least have that control and that ability if you name them properly going forward. If they're all named iPad, you're not going to be able to distinguish which iPad's which, and then you will have to do, you know, whatever I want on one iPad, I want it on all. And which is fine too. Some schools, what they'll do is they'll just say, you know what, rather than spending all this time trying to split them into different uses, I just want all my iPads to have the same suite of apps. So one iPad, regardless of where it's being used, will have the same app as any other iPad. But if you don't want to go that route, again, go into the iPad, go to Settings, General, About, and then change that name up there to something that's meaningful to you. The name that you change on here will make its way over to AirWatch. Sometimes it can take a little bit of time for it to make its way over to AirWatch, but nonetheless, if you know if the name is changed on there, it should make its way over to AirWatch, and I would recommend that you make that time to do that. Another question here, I guess it would be, how do these iPads actually get here? So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 iPads in my AirWatch environment, And let's say, how did these iPads get here? So if you guys have gotten this far and the invitation for the webinar, you guys are probably aware that you had the option of choosing either to self-enroll or to have field services come on site and put all your iPads into AirWatch. If you chose field services to go on site and put all your iPads into AirWatch, effectively what they did is they rounded up all your iPads into one room, they wiped them clean, and then ran through the initial setup. So I have an iPad here that has been wiped clean and is on the initial setup screen. It'll say, well, nope, that's not it. There it is. Nah, I don't need that one. That's fine. So they'll have an iPad like this. Ooh, let me just, there we go. All right. So this iPad is fresh, vanilla, wiped. Or perhaps maybe it's a new iPad. So there are two scenarios. You either had an iPad prior to AirWatch that you guys had in circulation at your school. You were using it, and now you want to put it in AirWatch. You would go to settings, settings, general, reset, erase all contents and settings, and that wipes the device. When the device comes back to life, this is the screen that you see. This is the initial setup menu. So you'll either see the screen when you wipe a device or if you buy a brand new iPad. So this iPad could just as easily have been brand new, and I pulled it out of the box and this is what I see. So if I want to put this iPad such that it appears in AirWatch, I need to just walk through the setup. So I go to English, Canada. It's going to ask me to choose a wireless network. I should be able to join TDSB-media devices without any password. If you cannot join TDSB-media devices without a password, feel free to join TDSB-Wi-Fi. It will ask you for your employee number and password, but that is totally fine because once it's set up, it will switch itself automatically to WLAN TDSB 01. So now this is the magic of the AirWatch enrollment right here. As you can see, I joined the wireless, and right away it's saying the Toronto District School Board will now automatically configure your iPad. Cool beans. I'm going to click Next in the top right-hand corner, and now it's going to ask me to log in. So it says, for school iPads, enter your Trillium ID. For department iPads, contact us at the client service desk. Now, I'm going to frame this webinar for teachers, obviously, because there's only teachers in here. So that Trillium ID that it's referring to is your school's 4-digit Trillium number. If you don't know what that is, your principal, vice principal, OA should know what that is. Every school basically has a 4-digit number that is unique to them. For the sake of my school here, my number is 9999, so 4 nines front to back. Your school will be something different. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's going to be 4 numbers in sequential order. That 4-digit Trillium number is the same number you would see if, for example, you were trying to add a printer. So if you went to like your classroom printers and wanted to add a printer, you would see that all your printers begin with a 4-digit number and then class and whatever or dash off. But that 4-digit number is your unique school's 4-digit Trillium number. I don't want to spend any more time on that, but I think I made that pretty clear. You have a 4-digit number that's unique to your school. If you can figure out what that is, you type it in here, both for the username and the password. Yes? Printers, what about it? Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah, so they print a key. So, okay, well, let me just show you. So let's say I want to add a printer for my school. Oh, great, the shortcuts are broken. Staff? Classroom? Mine are broken. There's supposed to be that QDS file in there. Forget it. Okay. Never mind that. I was hoping. But your printer name, if you go to print on one of your computers, you'll see that the printer name begins with 4 numbers, and that is usually a good indication of what your school's Trillium number is. Anyways, so my fictitious school here, the number is 9999. So both for the username and the password, I'm going to enter in 9999. Okay? That, by me entering in that 4-digit number there, is what tells this iPad that it needs to go to my AirWatch environment. So if I go back to my AirWatch environment here, some reason it shows. Okay, so if I look at my AirWatch environment here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 4. I got 4 iPads here, right? What I should see now is that I'm going to get a 5th one join the roster because I have 9999 set up here. So by typing in 9999 for both the username and the password, what I'm doing is I'm telling this iPad to go put itself in my AirWatch environment. So I tap next in the top left-hand corner, which is now gone. It's going to do its thing. And now it's done. It says welcome to your iPad. Now when I go back to here, I got 4 iPads, but as soon as I refresh the page, whoops, as soon as I refresh the page, I should now see that I have 5 iPads. And there it is. So it's got a long gobbledygook name. As I said, what I would want to do is I would want to rename that iPad. So if I look at this iPad right now, I just finished the setup on it. It's still got the background, but what's going to eventually happen is this iPad is its background's going to change blue. It's going to get all the apps that I set up. Right now it's still loading, so I can already see it's got the catalog. But what's going to happen, it's going to get the agent app, and then there's going to be some different changes that are going to happen to this iPad. I was hoping it would have done it already, but sometimes it takes time. It's all based on the network connection. There we go. You can see the background's going blue. And what will happen is some apps should start appearing there. So I basically took this iPad, which was in a vanilla state, or maybe perhaps I wiped it, or maybe perhaps it's a brand new iPad, and I put it into AirWatch. So now I have a new iPad to work with here. Since I know that that iPad is this one here, I can actually go ahead and uniquely name it from the console. So I'll just click this pencil here, and I'll call this iPad. Oh no, grade 1 iPad number 4, whatever. And I'm going to set the friendly name as a device name and save. Again, very important to rename your iPads so that when I come to manage it later, I can see them and what they are in AirWatch matches up with what they are in real life. So this iPad should now be getting all its apps. And on top of that, the name should be changed, or if it hasn't changed yet, it will eventually change. So if I go to Settings, General, and About, oh yes, grade 1, iPad number 4. So that iPad has now been renamed. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. So if I got a brand new iPad, that's effectively the process of putting it into AirWatch, is just that sort of doing the initial setup and then typing in my school's 4-digit trillion number. Now that I have all my iPads in AirWatch, I'm going to actually show you how to deploy apps to them, and then I'll leave all the cool features you can do as far as on individual iPads for the end of the webinar, because I think it's getting close to 12:30 and I just want to show you the important parts for you guys. So what I do is, so now I have my iPads. I have 2 iPads here that are grade 1, and what I want to do is I now want to group them. So let's say I want to apply an app to all my grade 1 iPads. What I would do is I would put them into a group. So I'm going to go to Groups and Settings on the left-hand side here. And Groups, and then Assignment Groups. And I've already created some groups here. I'm foolish and created a grade 1 iPad group, which is what I named all my iPads. So I'm going to delete this and pretend I didn't create it. All right. Ah, okay. Yeah, because I have an assignment attached to it. All right, well, okay. Let's pretend that these grade 1 iPads are part of a chess club. Yeah. Grade 1s play chess, right? Cool. Okay, so these iPads are part of... No, that's a bad example. What kind of apps do I have? You know, I don't want to jump ahead here. So I'm still on Groups and Settings, Groups, Assignment Groups, and grade 1's yearbook? Well, I named all my iPads grade 1. You know what? Okay, because this isn't working. So, all right, we're going to do library. So these grade 1 iPads, I'm just going to rename them again. It doesn't hurt to call them whatever I want. So I'm going to call these ones, I'm going to rename all my iPads. So instead of iPad number 4 grade 1, this is library iPad number 4. Set the name as a friendly name, save. This one, I'm going to rename grade 1. This one's now a library iPad. And set the friendly name as the device name. And we'll call this one something that's not a library. So this will be a grade 2 iPad number 5. Oh, did I miss that? Oh, there isn't. Weird. Probably based on the version number. And this one, grade 6 iPad number 8, whatever. Set friendly name as device. Okay, so I got all my iPads named here. So you can imagine this is what you would ideally want your environment to look like. Is your iPads have a purpose and they have a name that matches what they're physically labeled as, and that you can now better organize them into groups. Okay, so that for example, when I go to create a group for the library, well, I know which ones go in there because I called them library. Whereas if they were named iPad, I wouldn't know that. So I'm going to toggle over to groups and settings here, and then I'm going to go to groups in the middle, and then groups, and then assignment groups. And then I'm going to add a smart group, this big blue button up here. So I already have some groups here that already exist here that I've created from beforehand, but I'm going to create a new one for the library. So I'm going to do add a smart group. By default, when you go to the add a smart group page, it's going to be on this choose type up here on the left-hand side. This says select criteria and select devices or users. We're going to actually want to toggle over to select devices or users. And the reason we toggle over to select devices or users is this mode, or this type rather, will let us choose iPads individually. So I can say these iPads all go in the group. With select criteria, what it does is it goes based on parameters of the device. So for example, I can make a group that says give me all iPads that are running Apple iOS that is greater than 11, we'll say, or 10.3.3, whatever. So this is saying that you can see that the iPads that get added in this group are based on criteria of the iPad, and there's not really a lot to work with here. So don't bother creating a group with the select criteria option here. As soon as you go to create a smart group, toggle over to select devices or users. Because with select devices or users, we can manually create the list. In fact, when I go to click here, it's going to tell me, hey, you're going to lose all your stuff. Totally fine. I don't plan on keeping this list anyways. So I click OK, and now I have a fresh new group to create with. In the top right-hand corner, it says the name. I'm going to give it a name, and as we, for the sake of our example, this is a library iPad, library iPads. That's the name of my group. It's going to contain, obviously, all my library iPads. And under devices, you can see here that there is an empty text box field. When I put my cursor in here, it's going to bring down a list of all my iPads. Do not use the users field here. If you put your cursor in the user field, it's going to give you, like, I think literally every user, the TDSB. So you can actually just collapse that, click the arrow next to it so you don't do that accidentally. But the device is what we're focusing on. We want to add devices into this smart group. So So when I put my cursor in here, it's going to show me all my devices. In this case, I think it only shows you like 4 at a time. But right now, I already see my iPads here that I want added in. One is library iPad number 3. So I'm going to click that and click add. It's going to move over to the right hand side. So now I know that that iPad is in this group. I'm going to put my cursor in here again, and I'm going to find my other one. So that's library iPad number 3. We already have that in there. And library iPad number 4. I'm going to click that and click add, and now it moves over. If I accidentally choose an iPad, say grade 2 iPad, and I accidentally click add, you can see that now grade 2 is in there, but I don't want it in there. To take it out of the group, I just click this little checkbox next to the iPad on the left-hand side, and it takes it out. So here I have my new group. Again, I just added in by choosing from this list. You can start typing to filter it out. So if let's say I have 100 iPads and I don't want to scroll through a list of 100 iPads, and again, if I name them correctly, I could do library, and then it will show me just the ones that have library in the name. Again, very important to rename your iPads, because if you came here and you hadn't renamed your iPad, what you would see is an entire list of all these iPads that are just called iPad, 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 iPad. And it's going to be a nightmare to try to figure out which one's which. So in this case, I have named my iPads, and I've selected both my library iPads. I've named the group at the top right-hand corner here, library iPads, and now I click save. So what I've done is I've taken those iPads and I put them into a group. Now, which means now I can work with them on a group level. So I can say these apps go to the library iPads, and then they'll only go to the library iPads, right? Same thing with all these different groups. You would imagine you'd want to group them based on their use case. So if you have apps that only the grade 1s are going to use, I could say these grade 1 iPads are going to get these apps, these grade 2 iPads are going to get these apps, the one in the library are going to get these apps, etc., etc. That is probably the most robust way of managing your iPads. However, it obviously adds more difficulty in that you have to make sure all your iPads are renamed. they all have a purpose, and that they all get grouped together into their individual groups or functions or uses, right? If that is too much for you and you're a simple guy or gal and you just want to just do it so that all your iPads have everything on it, there's actually a group created here by default called iPads All. So every school should have an iPads All group, which will contain all your iPads. So by default, all 4 of my iPads are in this group. And the same should occur for you. So if I get a new iPad and I put it in AirWatch, by default, right away, no action needed. It is now a member of the iPads All group. Whereas with these other groups that I'm creating, I have to do the work manually. So I can say all my iPads get these particular apps. In fact, if you look here, my iPads All group, like I said, it has 4 iPads in it. This assignments column here also shows me how many different things or apps I have applied to that group. So I have 14 assignments applied to my iPads All group, which means there should be about 14 things that my app or that my iPads get by default when they come in here. If I click the actual assignments tab, it'll show me. In this case, these are some profiles. These are things that I've created before on different webinars, so we'll ignore those as our web clips. But if I go to applications, it'll show me by default every one of my iPads is going to get these apps because I set them up before. So you can see here I've already done these configurations. I have all my iPads when they come in here are going to get these apps. And in fact, if you saw when I put this new iPad in here, right, it started right away downloading a whole suite of apps. So you can see Google Classroom, Scratch Junior, Seesaw, Explain Everything. And if I look here, Explain Everything, Seesaw, and Scratch Junior. Where is that? Oh, my mouse on the screen. Oh, are you sure you want to exit? No. Oops. Okay. Almost killed the stream. And Scratch Junior here. So yeah, all these apps by default will go on all my iPads. So if you have like some, for example, let's say you have a particular suite of apps that you know is good to go on every iPad. A good example would be the Google suite. We're a Google-oriented school board. We have, you could say all my iPads are going to get the Google suite apps, and then you can be more granular with the other ones. So you don't want these grade 1 apps on the grade 6 iPads, for example. So I have Google Classroom, Drive, Maps, Chrome, Slides, whatever. That's fine to go on all my iPads. I don't care if that ends up on all my iPads. In fact, I want all my iPads to have that. So that's one thing that to keep in mind with the iPads All group is that you can say, this is going to apply to all my iPads. I hope that makes sense. These are just the groups. I haven't added any apps to any of these. I have. The iPads All group has some apps that are applied to it, but I haven't shown you how I've done that, and I'm going to do that right now. So I've grouped my iPads into my new group called the Library iPads, and I'm going to go over now to Apps and Books. So on the left-hand side, under Apps and Books, I'm going to click Apps and Books. It should by default take me to here. I don't need to click anything else on the left-hand side here. I wouldn't navigate through all these menu settings. If you're not comfortable with AirWatch yet, there's some stuff in there that you can probably figure out later. But more importantly, we want to get to the bottom of how to add these apps into AirWatch. So now that I'm on the Apps and Books tab, I can see here that I'm on Native, and it shows me the Purchase tab. I'm going to filter this list down. So by default, when I go to Apps and Books, I see all these unknowns, right? These apps do not apply to me. In fact, I can't even work with them. If I click them, nothing happens, right? This is we'll consider this like a board-wide list of all the apps. You can see there's about 507 apps or something, right? Anyways, I can't touch these. These aren't mine. So what we do is on here we filter for our apps. So in the search list field at the top right-hand corner here, right here, we're going to type in our 4-digit trillium number, or we can type in our school name. My fake school here is called Maple Grove Community School. And Maple Grove Community School, and my group ID is 999. So my trillium number is 99999, right? So as you saw earlier when I put the iPad in here, I typed in 9999, right? That's my school trillium number. So I can enter that in here in the search list field on the top right-hand corner. I do 9999, and I hit enter, and what it'll do is it'll take that list, and it'll filter down to the apps that I have. It doesn't have to necessarily be your school trillium number. You can enter in Maple Grove. You can enter the school name, and it should be able to find it based on the school name. You can see how it's highlighted there, right? So either the school name, or the school trillium number. Boom, right? And that'll filter that list down so that the apps apply to you. Now you can see that these apps are now clickable. If I hover my mouse over now, they're blue, right? So these are the apps that I can work with. Do not search by the app name. So let's say I want Angry Birds. This isn't how you get an app, right? So if I want to get Angry Birds and apply Angry Birds to my, hey, why isn't Angry Birds there? But it's available in the App Store. We have to request all of our apps, which I will show you. But let's say I find an app, Scratch. If I search for the app name, I might see this, right? So one of them I can work with. You can see how I can click on this one, and one of them I can't. I can't click this, right? And it shows that this isn't mine. It's for the Toronto District School Board, whereas this one's the Maple Grove, right? So that's why we filter by the school trillium number, not the app name. Because if you search by the app name, you'll either A, get an app that you cannot work with, or B, you'll get no results at all because you haven't requested that app. So here are the apps that I can work with. I'm just going to collapse this side menu here so I get more space to work with. Shows here I have 17 apps, and I can see that I have 17 apps by looking down here at the bottom. It says 17. And if I scroll here, these are all my 17 apps that I currently have. Now, how did these apps get here? These apps did not get here through magic. This is not a real-time look at the App Store. This is basically through a request process. So if I want an app to appear here so that I can work with it in AirWatch, we must request it. And how we do that is if it's on serviceit.tdsb.on.ca, that's our webpage for the client service desk, or IT in general, we'll say. This is the service IT page. There is an MDM page here. It's a little bit buried. For some reason, we put everything in this little scrolling banner. But one of them, here we go, mobile device management. If I want to look at all my AirWatch stuff, I go to mobile device management and click learn more. And this will take us to our everything AirWatch page. This page is going to be changing shortly. We've updated our documentation, and we have, it's already there? Oh, you posted it. Okay, so that's the new link there, yeah. But here's where we want to go. So it says, click here for the app request form. So if I submit the app request form, it'll put our apps in AirWatch. So these apps didn't get here by magic. I actually requested these apps. So all these apps here are because I went through the app request form process. So this page actually walks you through how to submit the app request form. The app request form is the first link here in the page. It says click here. And so this is what the app request form looks like. Essentially what I would do is it says go get the app on the VPP store, which is this page here. So let's say I wanted Angry Birds. Angry Birds. So I would search the app that I want, and let's say I want Angry Birds Go. I would click that app. And now I'm looking at it and I see, okay, this is a free app and I want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the address bar at the top. I'm going to right click and go to copy. And I'm going to take the address and I'm going to put it into my app request form. And the reason we ask for the address is so that we don't get it wrong. So in the case of Angry Birds, you saw there were so many different Angry Birds apps. If I grab the address, I know 100% that they'll get it right. And basically, you just fill out this form. It's not overly difficult. It'll ask you for your first name, last name, employee number, what's your role. Let's say I'm a teacher, Brandon. I'm a school. And my school name, I'm just going to pick one at random because I don't believe my fake school's here. So, and then it asks you what type of app that you want to request. There's paid and free. If you choose paid, it goes to teaching and learning. It can take a little bit of time, and they will buy it from you. Vince, thank you very much for attending. If you have to go, I apologize for taking so long. This thing is really hard to get in 1 hour. So, but I hope you learned something. So anyways, the app type is paid or free. I'm going to choose free. And then I would scroll down. It's going to ask me, are we using AirWatch? We click yes. And then this is where we actually fill out the apps that we want. So I would put in, Angry Birds and paste in that address that I had earlier. Right? So that address, I got it from up here. And I paste it in here. And then I would click submit. And then what will happen is in a moment's notice, or rather I should say, probably if it's a free app, it'll take about 2 to 5 business days. if for it to appear here to work with. So I should see Angry Birds here after I submit the app in 2 to 5 business days. If the app is paid, it could take upwards of 15 business days because it has to be vetted by teaching and learning, and also the money needs to be pulled from the account. So it shows here about 15 business days. If you haven't received a response for your app request in 15 business days, you can email apprequest@tdsb.on.ca, and that will go to teaching and learning. So getting back to AirWatch here, that's how these apps got here. Again, not magic. I submit that app request form, and then the apps appear here. So now let's say I want to deploy an app to my library, right? I'm going to find an app. I'm going to do Wonder for Dash and Dots here. I'm going to click the app name. Actually, sorry, before I show you that, I'm going to show you Starfall. Nope, that's a bad example. I'm going to show you, I do this every time. I think it was Epic. No, explain everything. Nope. Epic? Okay, there we go. This is what I want to show you. So let's say I wanted to deploy Epic to my iPads. When I click the app name Epic, the first thing that comes up is this big blue button, Enable Device Assignment. You have to press it once and click OK, and then you'll never have to press it again. It's silly that we have to do this, but it's there nonetheless, and we have to push that button. If we don't push that button, the app will not deploy, or rather it will screech and throw some errors on your iPads. So you got to push this big blue button, click OK, and then you'll never have to push it again. So I leave it there so that I can show it for future webinars. But the idea here is that here's an app, for example, Wonder for Dash and Dots, which is originally what I wanted to deploy. It doesn't have that big blue button. So if I click the app name, there's no big blue button here because I've pressed it and I've pressed it before. Now if I actually want to go and assign this app to my smart group, which I created earlier, and we saw that I created the library iPad smart group, I go to save and assign. Looks like I have one from here before. Ignore everything I'm doing. I'm going to delete this. Ignore this. Pretend I didn't do any of this. Okay. I'm going to cancel it so I can show you from the beginning again. Oh, you know what? I think it didn't save because I should have clicked save. Darn it. Save and assign. It's still there. Yeah, because I didn't. So delete. Yeah, I got to save. Save and publish. Publish. So what I just did there is I actually removed an assignment, which means that if that app was on any iPads, it's now being removed, and that's totally fine. But say I want to deploy Wonder for Dash and Dots to one of my iPads. I click the app name. I go to save and assign. There are currently no assignment rules here. There was one before. I removed it real quick and you guys didn't notice. Ha ha ha. But I'm going to click add assignment here. And now this is where I create my assignment rules. So now I created my group for my library iPads. Now I'm just going to go ahead and create an assignment rule that says all my library iPads are going to get Wonder for Dash and Dots. So I'm going to hover my mouse over add assignment by. I'm going to go to license code by smart group. And I'm going to see this brand new text field here. It shows me choose a smart group. I'm going to put my cursor in there and I'm going to find my smart group. Now I created the library iPads, so it should see it here. Library iPads. There it is. So library iPads. So that's that group that I created earlier. It shows me, hey, you got 2 devices in your library iPads group. And now it's asking me for an allocated value. I have to type something in here. And the allocated value says that how many licenses is this group going to have. So not to throw any confusion, but even though the app is free, we do have a set amount of licenses. So I have 500 licenses to work with. So the app is free, but I still have 500 copies of the free app to work with. It's sort of just for accountability. Unfortunately, we have to have this licensing model. It's not us, it's Apple. But that's how this whole thing works, is that we have 500 free licenses to play with, and I have 2 iPads that exist in this group. So what I need to do is I need to give this group 2 licenses or more, because obviously I can't give one license to a group that has 2 iPads, because then one of them won't have a license, right? So I need at least 2. However, what I would recommend is when you're doing the allocated value here, for when you're choosing what the license will be, is you shoot for the moon, because you have 500 to work with. You probably don't have 500 iPads. And what I would say is that you would do more than you expect. So for example, if I have 2 iPads in my library group, but I don't expect to get more than 10 iPads in that group ever, I'm going to put 15. So if down the road I put more iPads into the library group, I get more iPads that come in, I buy some more iPads for the library, instead of coming back in here and changing this value, I can shoot for the moon one time and not have to deal with this ever again. So I put 15 in there. So now if I ever get, 13 more iPads, I can put them in the library iPad group, and then they'll get the Wonder for Dash and Dots app. So I have 15 put in here. I'm going to leave the assignment type here as auto. There are two options though, auto and on demand. With auto, it means that it's automatically going to deploy to all the iPads, which means the second I hit save, it's going to right away start pushing that app out to all my iPads, or not all my iPads rather, but all the iPads in the library iPads group. I don't need to touch any other setting down below here, just leave it like this. Choose your group, give it a license count more than you expect, and then the assignment type, you're going to leave it as auto. Once I click save, it's going to immediately start to deploy the app. It's going to say, okay, here's my new assignment rule. That's great. I can now click save and publish. It's going to show me all the iPads that are going to get it. In this case, remember I put 2 iPads in there. It's showing me, hey, 2 of those iPads are going to get it, right? If I click publish, it's going to right away start chugging away and working to push out those apps to those iPads. So if I toggle over to my iPad now, hopefully it will have gotten it. This one hasn't. This one has the iTunes store open, or bookstore. So sometimes it does take a little bit of time for it to get over here. It's all based on the network connection. Okay, so this one's still trying to get another app that's not Wonder for Dash and Dots. So this one just finished installing Seesaw, which is not what I deployed. I deployed Wonder for Dash and Dots. Again, it's based on the network and is time-based, so a few things you can do. One, I would say wait. Eventually it will make its way over. As you can see, I have 2 iPads, but for example, this one doesn't have Google Classroom. Well, this one obviously has more apps than this one. Okay, so which app does okay, so the one on the left, for example, doesn't have Google Docs on it. Yes, so Suzanne, if you need to go, thank you very much for attending again. I'm sorry it took so much time. I think you got the gist of it, though. If you got as far as how to actually deploy the apps, that is actually what we wanted you to accomplish. The rest is all extra. If you guys got to go, totally understand. I'm going to kind of psychobabble on for a few more minutes just to cover everything. But again, using the link that you have here, you can return to this. This same video. The chat obviously won't be open. So if you come back to this video, the chat will be closed because of the live stream is now off, but you'll see the rest of what I'm going to do, which shouldn't be much longer. I'm just going to cover 1 or 2 more things, but I think you saw the gist of it. If you saw as far as me coming in here and adding an app to an iPad, then you saw what I wanted you to see. Obviously, the iPad has not gotten the app yet, but eventually, if I make sure it's connected and give it some time, eventually those apps will start automatically deploying. Obviously, I'm not going to make you stick around and wait, but I promise you, it does eventually make its way to the iPad. And if I do see it in the corner of my eye, I will bring it back up on the screen. But like I said, if you have to go right now, totally fine, totally understandable. I get it. I've gone over time by 10 minutes. That's it's very hard to sacrifice even an hour, to be honest with you guys. So I apologize for dragging you out here, but I wanted you to get at least the basics of it. So if you need to go, totally understandable. But I'm going to carry on just for the sake of, if you want to come back and watch this video, you can jump right back to this point and you'll be like, cool, here's the stuff I missed. So that was deploying an app. I don't see that the app has deployed in the left-hand side of my eyeball. It looks like it's still waiting for it to go. If I do see it deploy, I will quickly switch back over and show you. But that was deploying an app. So if I show here for Wonder for Dash and Dots, I can click the app name, and then I went into Save and Assign, and then I created my assignment rule here. I can actually go back in and edit it. So if I select it and go to edit, I can change it. So let's say I came in here and the first time around I only gave it 15, but then tomorrow I ordered 15 more iPads for the library. Well, darn, I got to increase this now. So I'm going to choose 40, right? So I can change all my stuff in here. I can save. This is a new value. Click save, save and publish, and then it will show me, by the way, here are the iPads that are going to get. Totally fine. Another thing that you can do here from apps and books is by default, the apps will not automatically update. So when you're looking at an app, like let's say Wonder for Dash and Dots, this one is going to push out 1.11.5. that may or may not be a problem. It may or may not be something you want. For example, I like to think that the latest version of the app is the greatest version of the app. However, there are instances, for example, where an app gets updated and then it no longer works on your older iPads. But if we're not concerned about that, then what we can do is we can turn on auto updates. So if Wonder for Dash and Dots, for example, has an update. Oh, actually, let me quickly show you. Oh, I gotta toggle back. It's happening. All right. So it just installed there. I don't know if I caught it in time. Wonder for Dash and Dots, and oh, this one's installing too. So these are my two library iPads. Wonder for Dash and Dots just is installing here, and it just finished installing here. Sorry, I had to panic and flip over to show you. But let's say, for example, Wonder for Dash and Dots, like I said, right now it's 1.11.5. Maybe perhaps there's an update available on the App Store. I can force the app to automatically update such that when an update becomes available, it automatically updates on all my iPads. What I do is I check off the app name, and I have an option here to enable auto updates. So you can see the column right now has a big red X stating under auto update, meaning this app will not automatically update. I can toggle it to auto update by clicking this enable auto updates here. So right now it's red, and I can actually do that for multiple apps at a time. So right now, let's say Starfall 2 also shows auto updates not available. I can select them both, and now I can see that I can enable auto updates for both. So I click on enable auto updates. That check mark, or sorry, that X should now go green. So now both of them have a green check mark next to them, meaning if an update becomes available for that app, it's going to automatically update all my iPads with that update. So that is one thing you may want to consider doing for all your apps. So that was adding an app. You may want to add an app, like I said, to the to the iPads all group. Let's see, is Twitter assigned? So let's say I wanted all my iPads to have Twitter. I could come into here, and I could do save and assign. And then once again, oh, this one's already, okay, on demand. Let me delete that. So again, pretend ignore everything you're seeing. So pretend this is vanilla, save. I'll explain that in just a second. Okay, so if I come back into Twitter here, and I want to assign it to all my iPads, go to save and assign, right? So rather than using my iPads all group, I can just go to add assignment, and then again, license code by smart group. I can find my smart group, and instead of choosing these little groups that are very niche to their purpose, I want all my iPads to have Twitter. I can just come in here and use the iPads all group, and it'll show me, well, this is going to go to all 4 iPads. So Wonder for Dash and Dots went to 2. This one's going to 4. I have 501 licenses to play with up here. So I'm going to go ahead and say 500 because all my iPads are going to get it. So I might as well use all my licenses. So 500 licenses, and the assignment type is auto. When I click save, same thing happens again. Save and publish. It's going to show me all the iPads that are going to get it. In this case, all 4 of them are going to get it. I do publish, and right away it starts chugging away to push them out. Again, it does take some time. It may not appear on the iPads right away, as it didn't for Dash and Dots. It's probably not going to do for this either. Still no app on here, but they should eventually get Twitter. One thing else I want to show you, though, is that was the automatic deployment. So right now I pushed Wonder for Dash and Dots to just my library, which had 2 iPads in it, and then I applied Twitter to all my iPads. So meaning every iPad is going to get Twitter, and let's say I get a new iPad tomorrow and I put it into AirWatch, it's going to get Twitter right away, regardless, without coming in here and managing a single thing, because I said all iPads get Twitter, right? So every single iPad going forward is going to get Twitter. You can also make an app optional in that when you go to install it, I don't force it on the iPad. So I'm going to do the same thing with Starfall. So with Starfall, I'm going to go to save and assign. I should have cleaned this thing up. Again, ignore everything I'm doing. I'm deleting my previous assignment rule. Save and publish. Remove, publish. Okay. So, I'm going to go back to Starfall here. Okay. So, say for Starfall, I want to give it so that it's optional on all the iPads. So, I'm not going to force this app onto all the iPads, but I'm going to give them the option to install it. I go to save and assign. I go to add assignment. Same thing as before, license code by smart group. Choose my smart group. I'm going to say all my iPads. iPads all all 4 of them right here. Because I'm choosing all of them, I might as well give them all 500 licenses. Not 5,500. Okay. But one thing I'm going to do differently this time around. What's this? Number 1's allotted count should be greater than 0. Oops. Oh, sorry. Let me go back in, edit. Okay. So one thing I'm going to do differently is instead of leaving that assignment type as auto, which like I said, what it does is right away it starts to push out the app. It starts chugging away trying to push it out to all the iPads. I'm going to change this from auto to on demand, which means that it's not going to push it out to all the iPads. It's not going to force all the iPads to get a copy of it, but it's going to make it optional. And what does that mean? I'll show you. I'm going to click save. Then save and publish once again. It's going to show me all the iPads that are going to get it. In this case, all the iPads are going to get it. Although when I say get it, I don't necessarily mean get it by force. I'm saying that they can get it optionally. So I go to publish. And so now what I'm going to do is toggle back to my iPad. And right away, Twitter is not on either of these iPads, so that's still taking its sweet time. But that last app that I just deployed was Starfall. But I didn't say to force Starfall. So if I come back in here, what I said was I'm going to make it optional. So if I go back into Starfall here, save and assign, and then edit. So Starfall is set to on demand instead of auto. So that means that these aren't going to get it right away. But if I go to the catalog, which is that, here, let me just get one of them out of here. No sense. I want 2. So the catalog, so there's 2 apps, that, agent and the catalog. The catalog is going to show me all the apps that I can get optionally. As well, it's also going to show me all the apps that I should have too. So for example, I chose Starfall as an optional app. And you can see next to here, there's an install button, which means now I'm giving the user the choice to install it. So right now, if I want Starfall, I can tap install, install. And then it'll say processing. It'll say the install command was received. And sometimes it doesn't work. Let me try again. Catalog. I think it's getting jammed up right now because as you saw, like it's supposed to be getting Twitter right now, right? So I can come in here and force Twitter to install. But actually I want Starfall because Starfall it's not going to force Starfall on the iPad, but I can come on here and tap install and install. And what it should do, there you go. So now you see Starfall is installing. So that app would have never forced itself onto the iPad, but rather I'm giving the person who has the iPad in their hand the opportunity to pick it up, go to the catalog, find that app, and tap install. You can do that with all your apps. You can do it with some of your apps. That's one way of doing it. Twitter is supposed to automatically install. It hasn't installed yet because of probably the network connection, or maybe it forgot about it. It kind of does it in waves. It tries to do it in waves, and it may just be that it is going to try again in a few minutes. If for whatever reason that app takes its sweet time to install, you can actually even try to force it. So it's supposed to have Twitter automatically. I can actually probably even force it through the catalog. So as you can see, the button there is to install. I can do the same thing with Twitter, and it may force it. Actually, it did. There you go. So now Twitter's installing. Now that should have happened automatically. I don't know why it didn't, but the catalog can also actually help you to force install something if it's taking its sweet time. So just by coming in here and tapping the install button, I've actually forced Twitter to come onto the iPad right away. So I have Wonder for Dash and Dots. I have Twitter, which is going to all my iPads. Wonder for Dash and Dots going to just my library. And Starfall is optional. So if anybody wants Starfall, well, go to the catalog, find Starfall, and install it, right? Which I've done here already. And I think, you have the other iPad? Can you pass it to me? So, and again, that catalog applies to all the iPads, right? So if I go into the catalog here, I should see Starfall in here as well. And there it is. So if I wanted Starfall in here, tap install, install. And then this one should start getting Starfall. So I made it optional. Being a pan, install. Is it glitchy? Oh, it's doing something. There it is. Okay. Yeah, it can be problematic. It can sometimes take a few times doing it over and over again, but eventually it should make its way over, and that's on-demand deployment. And that's all because I chose that on-demand feature here for Starfall. So that's that. And just to work backwards for the sake of example, I'm going to undo it. So let's say I want to remove Twitter from all my iPads. I can undo what I've done here. So if I go back into Twitter, save and assign, I no longer have a need for Twitter and I want to remove it. What I do is I just select that assignment rule and then I click delete. So what that'll do is undo the assignment, right? So if I come back in here, it's got Twitter on it right now. I'm going to delete it. Delete. And click save. Save and publish. It's going to show me that it's going to remove all the iPads. And there it is. Publish. Boom. So now if I go back to my iPad, it should start removing Twitter. Twitter's gone. Same thing with this one. Well, this one never got Twitter, but yeah. Now Twitter, basically that's how it works, right? I can deploy an app by assigning it to a group, or I can do the reverse. I can say, you know what, let's remove if I remove the assignment, it removes the app. So I assigned Twitter to all my iPads, and then I undid that. I said, you know what, I want to remove that assignment to all my iPads. And what that's going to do is remove it from all my iPads. And in fact, now if I go back in the catalog, I shouldn't see Twitter here anymore either. So now Twitter is completely off the radar. I cannot get Twitter until I come back in here and put it back in, right? So I can go back there and then let's say, you know, do it again. I can make a manual assignment rule, add assignment by, right? License code by smart group, choose my iPads all group. I'm just blazing through this to show you that once you get the hang of it, this is literally how quick it is to do. And I could say all 500, and then instead of auto, I don't want to force it on all my iPads. I want to make it on demand. Do save. What's this? What are you talking about? -2. I'll do 400 licenses. That was just an error saying that I put too many licenses because yeah. Anyways, save and publish. So what I did is I just made it on demand again for all my iPads, which means if I go back to, oopsie doodle, if I go back to my iPad, once again, where it wasn't in the catalog before, it'll be in the catalog again now, and there it is, Twitter, right? Again, not overly complicated. So that is deploying apps. So that's how you would add an app to an iPad, and that's how you remove an app from an iPad just by undoing what you did. Given that the time is now 12:55, I'm not going to show you some other stuff. AirWatch is definitely a huge product, and there's a lot of cool things you can do. You can wipe an iPad from AirWatch. All this stuff is available on our Service IT MDM page. I think you linked it here. Forbidden. Oh, I'm not signed in. Ah, there we go. So here's our knowledge base. On the left-hand side is AirWatch. And if you go to AirWatch, everything that I covered here and more is available. So for example, you know, the app request form, right? I showed you how we submitted the app request form. We got FAQs. You can wipe an iPad, how to check in and check out. That was that signing in with the AirWatch agent, logging into the AirWatch console. That was, you know, how we had to type in the name, how to change the device name, how to create those smart groups, you know, how to add those devices to the smart groups. Then we showed you how to deploy apps, and then we can show you how to remove the apps. So there's two different methods here. The one that I showed you is removing it by removing the assignment, by doing the group. But as you can see, there's a lot more, and we got some more stuff coming down the pipe too as well on how to do here. Lots can be done in AirWatch. That is the gist of it. That is what I wanted you guys to know. I wanted you to know how to add your apps into AirWatch. Sorry, how to add your iPads into AirWatch, rename them, and then how to add apps to them, and then how to remove apps to them. Everything else from here is extra. If you need any help with AirWatch and you're wondering what it is that AirWatch can do for you, I'd be happy to answer that question for you if you call us at the client service desk. Our number is 416-395-4357. We are open from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. Feel free to call us and ask us any questions regarding AirWatch, and we'll be able to show you some more about what you can do, all the different features here of AirWatch. But I think you guys got the gist of it. So if you do need to go, I probably overstayed my welcome and overstayed taking your time. I'm not even sure if there's anyone even here, but anyone who wants to come back and watch it will at least be able to hear this part. And if you are still out there, thank you very much for attending. I'm going to wrap this up now, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And if you guys have any questions, I'll linger around for 2-3 more minutes. If I don't see anything come up in the chat, then I'll just disconnect the stream. But I'm going to sort of deconstruct here, disassemble everything that I have set up here while leaving the stream open so you guys can answer any questions. If I see it, I'll jump back on. But I think I'll wrap it up for now. So thank you very much for attending, and goodbye if you're leaving. Oh, cool. A question. Daniel, yes. Oh, I didn't think anyone was still here. I'm flattered. Usually it's like when I run this late, you know, everyone's got to run back to class. What is your question, Daniel? You can pack all that up. I don't know why I put the iPads away. Oh, gee. I'm wondering how to push a set of or folder of pictures onto all the iPads. Ooh, I don't know if that's possible. I know you can push books, but I don't think you can push photos. So yeah, actually, I can show you a neat little workaround. It may not be exactly what you want, but hopefully this will work. So what I didn't get to cover on the webinar is web clips, but what I can do is I can actually push a web clip, which is basically like a link to all the iPads. So for example, let me sign in with my TDSB account. So let's say I go to Google Drive, right? And I'm gonna switch over to my Google account. Oops, what's all this? Okay, so I'm gonna toggle here. And there's my TDSB account, first name dot last name at tdsb.owen.ca. It's going to take me to my Google Drive. And let's say I want a set of pictures on all my iPads, right? Right now, my Google Drive is a bit of a cluster. So I got all these different folders here. So I'm going to create a brand new folder, and I'm going to call this pictures for all my iPads, right? So new folder, pictures for all my iPads, right? So now I'm going to put every picture that's going to go in this folder is going to go to all my iPads. So let's put some pictures in here. Oh, I got pictures of my lovely little dog. I'm going to take these ones and I'm going to move them to that new folder, which is called pictures that go on all my iPads. Pictures and move. Okay. So now I've gone into my Google Drive. I've created a folder called Pictures for all my iPads, and it's got 3 lovely photos on it that I want to share with every iPad. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to first make sure that everyone can actually access this folder. So I'm going to share it. There's different share settings. I'm going to choose Get a Shareable Link, because this is how I'm going to actually deploy this link to all my iPads, because I'm going to put this link on all my iPads. Right now it says anyone at the TDSB with the link can view. What that means is that if you click this link, you need to be signed in with your TDSB account in order to view these images. That may or may not be what you want. So if these images are private and you don't care, and you only want those that are at the TDSB to view them, then you would want to leave this setting on. But if you have no problem with anyone in the entire World Wide Web seeing these photos, you can make it a little bit least restrictive. So I'm going to put it so that I'm going to choose more, and I'm going to say anyone with the link can see these photos. So if you click my link, you don't have to sign in with your Google account or any account at all. You can just, if you have the link, you can click my link and go look at my photos. So I'm going to choose that option and click Save. And now I got a link here that I can work with. I'm going to copy this link by pressing the actually, you know what? I'm going to leave this window open here because I'm going to have to come back. Okay. But I have a link and I have a folder with all my photos in it. I'm going to go back into AirWatch, and under Apps and Books on the left-hand side, where we are right now is Native, which is where all my apps are. That's where I'm at here. But on the left-hand side, if I go to Web, there's an option here for Web Links, right? So this is something I've created before. I'm going to go ahead and just leave it there. And I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to go to Add Application at the top. It's going to say what platform is this for. This is going to go for all my iPads, so I'm going to choose Apple iOS. I'm going to go to continue. It's going to ask me for the name. I'm going to call it pictures for all iPads. And now it's going to ask me for that URL. So that URL is that link that I had up here earlier. So this link here, I'm going to copy the link. I can press that button, or I can right click and go to copy, right? And I'm going to come back into AirWatch up here at the top, and I'm going to paste this into the URL field. Paste, right? And I'm going to leave it, I don't care about the description. You don't see the description, also it doesn't really matter. I'm going to leave description blank. And then I'm going to toggle over to images. Now images is going to ask you for a, this is what the icon's going to look like. So when it's on the iPads, this is what the iPad is going to see that the image looks like. So I don't know, let's just pick any random image from the web. Dog, because they're pictures of dogs, right? So my icon, I'm just grabbing a dog icon. Oh, look how cute that is. All right, I'm going to save this one to my desktop, and this is going to be my icon. So desktop, there it is. Cool. So obviously you don't need to do this part where you search Google Images for pictures of puppies, but I highly recommend it. It's very therapeutic. But then we go back to here. All right, so I was on the details tab. That's where I put in my link and the name. I'm going to toggle over to images. It's going to ask me for an image. I'm going to go grab my dog photo that I just grabbed and download.jpg is what it was called. I'm going to click open. Perfect. And then I'm going to go to assignment. And just like with an app, you know, I chose the smart group that's going to get this assignment. Same thing with the web clip. I'm going to say what group of iPads is going to get this. I can either have it so that just my library gets it, just the JK iPads, grade 6, whatever group I want, right? If you want all your iPads to have it, choose iPads all. Okay. It's going to ask, are there any exclusions? We're going to say no. The push mode is on demand or automatic, just like with the apps. If we choose on demand, it makes it optional. If we choose automatic, it forces it to all the iPads, which is what we want. I'm going to choose auto. There's some more settings that are kind of tucked away here under advanced. But if I scroll down here, one of the options is this removable? Do I want the person holding the iPad, do I want to give them the ability to remove this? And I'm going to choose no. I want them to have it, and I say whether it gets removed or not. So I'm going to choose no, they can't remove it. The next option is this going to be full screen? So full screen will be, because essentially what a web clip is it opens up the Safari browser, and it takes you to that page, right? So if I toggle over to my iPad here, what that's essentially going to do is it's going to open up Safari, which is this browser down here. Let me close that. And when it's asking me for full screen basically means, see this top bar where I can actually type the address and stuff like that? This top bar, if it's full screen, you won't see any of this stuff. The page is going to consume the entire screen. So that all depends on what you want. In this case, I'm going to choose yes, just for the sake of example, so you can see what full screen does. But for you, you can choose no or yes. It all depends on what you want, right? So I'm going to choose yes, and then save and publish. So just like with my apps before, it will show me, hey, these are all the iPads that are going to get it. Totally fine. I said all iPads are going to get it. Perfect. Publish, and now I see pictures for all iPads. So when I toggle back over to my iPad now, so what I should see is that icon there. So here's my iPad, and there it is. Pictures for all iPads. And when I tap that, what's going to happen is it's going to open up in full screen, so you can see there's no bar at the top where I can, you know, change the address, right? And it goes right to my Google Drive of my photos. So technically speaking, all my iPads have these photos. They can look at them, right? But they're not in the Photos app, right? So if I go here and I go to Photos, they're not on the iPads in the Photos app, which is where, you know, most photos would be stored. There's nothing here, right? But I've offered this to all my iPads. So I can either go to the link here and look at my photos, right? If that's all I want is just to look at the photos, then that's a good way of sharing it, is just putting it in a link, right? Oh, but I can also download it, right? So if I open up the photo and now I want to put it on this iPad, I can tap this and sorry, I think how do you do this? I think tap and hold. There's got to be a way to save it. Open a new window. Ooh. Oh, okay. Well, that's weird. Because of the full screen? Yeah, go for it. That's totally fine. Yep. I don't know why it's not. There's so. How do I download it? So I can't download it from here, but I can actually tap this, open a new window, and then if I have Google, then it opens up here in Safari, and then I can tap this little download button up here in the top right hand corner. That guy right there. It then opens it up in another page, and then now I can tap and hold, save image. Yeah, so you can see it's a little bit cumbersome. So now if I go to the Photos app, it should be there. There it is. So a little bit annoying to grab it, but if all you want to do is have those photos available to all the iPads, that's one way of doing it, is you can create a web clip, right? And the link is there in the chat. So you create a web clip pointing to your Google Drive folder, which will have everything in here. And then in fact, if you want to, then you actually don't even need to do much more to change it. So now that it exists here, let's say in the future I want another photo on there. So let's go back to images, google.com, and I do doggo. Oops. Wow, I can't type. Control A. So I get another dog here, right? So now let's say I want to put, oh my god. Let's get this guy here. I just want the picture. So if I want this image here, I'm going to save it. I'm going to call it dog2. I'm going to close that. Okay. So now I have another picture of a dog that I want to put on all my iPads. Now this is going to be really easy going forward. Because it's tied to my Google Drive, all I have to do is take this dog image, right, which isn't in the folder now and isn't shared with everybody. If I take this image and I drag it into my Google Drive, there it is. Now also all my iPads should get it. So this link, which before has just these 3 images, now if I were to refresh this page, which I can do just by closing it. And by the way, if you want to close an app, what I'm doing here is I'm just basically double tapping the page, or double tapping the home button down here, like tap 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 like that. So if you double tap, it puts everything in these little cascaded windows, and if I want to close this app, I just swipe it towards this guy, and now it's officially closed. But if I go back in there, because I uploaded that new dog picture, it should reflect that here. Should. I don't know why it hasn't refreshed. That's weird. Come on. I just dropped a new one in here and it's not showing up. Well, that's a bad example. I'm not sure why that's happening, to be honest with you. Let me, I wonder if the full screen is breaking something here. So I'm going to come back in here and edit this. And I'm going to go back here and turn off full screen. Come on. Why is it? Oh. Oh, edit app. Oh, lovely. Okay. So I had it set to full screen before. I'm going to change it back to no. I think that'll be better for some reason, because at least I can refresh the page. And I'll close that. And it's gone. Oh, there it is. Okay. So now if I toggle back, there we go. So put it on another page. Now let me move this over. There we go. Okay. So now if I launch it, Now it's not in full screen, and as you can see at the top, I have more controls. And of course, my dog photo is now there. I'm not sure why full screen prevented it from not getting. I'm just closing all this. So this is now on all my iPads. My new dog picture is there. And just for one more sake of test, because I'm not convinced that I did something right here. So I'll do dog images. Grab this guy here. I'll save image as and dog 3. So there's my dog folder here. And I'm going to put dog 3 in that folder. Okay, so now I should have 5 dog photos. And when I toggle back over here, so that new photo isn't on here yet, but if I now that it's not in full screen mode, I have the controls at the top. So I can actually press the refresh button, which I think will show the new photo. I think it takes a while from Google Drive side because this one wasn't showing before, and then it eventually showed. So I think just because it's uploaded, that's so weird. Yeah, I can get. I mean, I hope you understand what I'm doing here, Daniel. Assuming you're still there, but that's what I did. Is I created a web link to a Google Drive folder, which I can then control by dumping stuff in here. I don't know why it's not happening so immediately. It may just be. It may just be either it's not loading properly, or if I go back in here. Yeah, still not showing. Obviously, I can probably force this by clearing the browser cache. So it's probably remembering. Yeah, one last question: is there any way to set a group of iPads into guided access through AirWatch? No, unfortunately not. But what? But there is. Classroom by Apple. So no, there's no way to do guided access. But sorry, what's that? Classroom by Apple? What is that? Oh really? Oh, is it? That's not free, is it? Okay. Daniel, I'm gonna get back to you on that. Apparently, there's an app called Classroom for by Apple, and it's sort of like you know how we have net support here, where you can basically control your computers. I think it's the same premise as that. So I think on the App Store, what you can do is search through the App Store and go find that app and play around with it first and foremost, you know, just to see if that does anything for you. So go to the App Store. I think it's let me see if I can find it. Actually, Classroom. Classroom. I imagine it'd be the first one. Classroom. That one? Ooh, 1.4 stars. 10 and above. So it's only compatible with iOS 10 and above. And that works like guided access, eh? Students have to allow it. Okay, so on the student side, so one would be like the controller and one would be like the student, right? Oh, I don't need it on the other one? Okay, install. Done. Okay, oh, and Bluetooth turned on. Okay, so one of them's got Classroom somewhere, right? Oh. Share app. I got Bluetooth on. They're both on the same Wi-Fi. Go back in here. Classroom. We'll definitely send you an email about it, but now I'm just curious myself. I'm just going to play around. You don't have to stick around and watch me play around with this, but I'm going to do that now. So, you know, oh, open, here we go. So this one's done. Hold on a sec, I'm just trying to turn on Bluetooth. Oh, it's already on, okay. So, what's this? Continue? Create a class, so, oh, Mr. Silva. Done. Create new class. This is math. And it's blue. Okay. Add student. Classroom link to send notifications. Allow. Oh, add student. 542. Okay, so it's saying it's giving me a number to add this student to the classroom. So I'm gonna go to the other iPad settings. Bluetooth? Oh, classroom. Oh, snap. Oh, look at that. Add math. My information. Oh, so this is my student name, right? So little Jimmy. Little Jimmy loves his math. And it's asking me for the code, which is 5482. 5482. Add. Oh, there you go. Okay, so add. Oh, so I can force him to. Okay, but let's say I'm doing guided access. Oh, okay, so I can say lock the iPad to Scratch Junior. So if I tap Scratch Junior, it says Mr. Silva wants to lock your iPad. Oh, so the student has to allow it. So the student can choose either allow or deny. So if I choose allow, it should open Scratch and then lock it to Scratch. Okay, so Scratch is open. Wow, that's so cool. Scratch Junior would like to access your camera. Okay, and now. Oh, snap. The home button doesn't do anything. The power button still works. Volume probably still works, but you can't leave the app. Wow. I thought it was maybe like controlling it from there. Mute it, share screen. This is phenomenal. I don't know if you're still there, Daniel, but this seems pretty cool. I think this might be what you want. It's like a guided access, but you control it from one of your tablets, so you can kind of watch over your class. So it's limited to iPads with iOS version 10 and above. And of course, the student has to actually approve it. They got to allow it. So. And oh, I can even force them to go to a web page. So I can say open Safari and go to. This should come up here. Yeah. Oh, it's got to be bookmarked. Okay, so I would come in here. Let's say I create. Oh, here we'll just use my folder. So I will favorite this. Add? Oh no, the plus sign. No. Wait, how do you bookmark? That one? Favorites? Yeah, favorite it. Start. Isn't that like a favorite thing? So intuitive. Yeah, I just want to favorite that. Share. Add to favorites. There we go. Okay, so cool. Okay, so now I got a favorite here for my pictures. Cool. Okay, so now I should be able to come into the classroom and favorites. Oh, I probably have to reopen the app. So classroom. Little Jimmy. I'm going to navigate him to Safari, my favorite, pictures for my iPad. Get out, look at that. It's going to take me right there. I just forced little Jimmy's iPad to go directly to, wow. Hey, I learned something new today too, Daniel. Play around with this. I think this is super cool. Yeah, it's called Classroom. Why does it have such bad reviews in the App Store? Oh, the allow part, yeah. Student can say no, yeah. But what you could do is they could say always allow. So like if I force them to open explain everything, there was an option there that asked you to always allow, and I think if you choose always allow, then it should never ask them again, right? Okay, that's really cool. I hope that answered your question. Neat. Anything else? If anyone's still there, I don't know if anyone got to see that. Probably clip that out of the video later and make it its own video because I think that's pretty cool. I think I'm gonna shut up shop here, and since in case I don't think anyone besides Daniel's still here, but yeah. All right, Daniel, hopefully that's exactly what you wanted. You're free to go now. I'm going to shut down the stream. Thank you very much for attending once again. I hope that Apple Classroom thing is exactly what you're looking for. I think it's pretty cool. Mind you, I only played with it for 2 minutes, so you might notice some problems. Just again, it says that you can only have, it only works on a maximum version of iOS 9 or, no, not 9, iOS 10 or higher. So your older iPads may not be able to run that, but that's a cool little alternative. Thank you very much. Take care and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.